Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Wednesday, June the 6th. This will serve as our chart lesson for today. And this is going to be a really quick, a really easy chart lesson. And my hope is that everybody did well today. If you didn't do well today, then you got some work to do, because this is a very strong trend. The trend line was very easy to find the first two swings. All this was in place before the regular opening, so you should have easily had this trend line. If you copy that trend line and move it to the top here where you got a couple of touches, and that was it for the rest of the day. That was the top of your channel, and you can see that. This was really easy trend. There weren't a whole lot of entries. Actually, I'm going to talk about that real quick, but I'm going to talk about there's only really four real key type entries that were the really good setups. And I'm going to talk about those, and then I'll tell you, once you see a trend like this, when you start to get all these tiny bars and they just keep going higher and higher and higher, you can just about buy every time prices pull back to the EMA if you get a setup. And you can see that, finally it came back here, but there was no setup here. Notice how prices got below the EMA before you ever had a bullish bar or break above it. So we'll talk about all that. Let's talk about the 1, 2, 3, 4, the four entries. And really, all you needed was this one entry right here to make a great, a lot of money today. Because if you caught this, your runner was good for the entry down here was around 96 or so, and this ran all the way to 13.16 before closing. And as long, until we had a break of that trend line, I'd probably just hang on. And that's, if the very least, you might have exited right in here. Which is what I did. I didn't hang on because I wanted to get done trading. I had some other things to do, so I exited. I believe I exited on this second one. I waited till there were two bars and then in a row, so I exited right here above that EMA, and that turned out to be the best place. And the reason I did was because we got a break too, was because we got a breakthrough of the trend channel line, and generally that means we're going to go to the other side. A lot of times just a couple of touches in the row will do it, but this was such a strong trend that we had to get that little breakthrough, and then prices went to the other side, and you see it held once again. And but let's talk about the four entries. You had a double bottom right here. I need to draw a couple of these lines. There's a nice double bottom right there. Anybody should be able to see that. It's kind of but anyway, let me just draw this on there in case anybody wants to come back and review this again. But you got a nice double bottom right there with a trap. You got one leg down, your second leg, and it just created a double bottom. And look how bullish that is right after the open. So going long, actually, since we had this bearish bar with a double bottom and we broke below that, really your double bottom is there. But I like to use these closes, and usually the stems are failed breaks. And you could actually have another one over here, so you got that right there. So you kind of have a little failed break right there, and a lot of people were looking for this second leg back, and when it reversed, that's a nice short trap. So if you didn't get, even if you got trapped long, you should have been thinking probably reversal out here, because we're probably coming back up to test these highs at a minimum, and you can see that's where we got to before we really started to get an attempted sell-off, but then it wasn't long before prices went right through that. And so, but if you caught this entry right here and held a runner, or even just held the original entry, depending on how you like to trade it, you're looking at probably close to 18, 19 points for the day off one entry. And that's what we live for. That's what we're looking for. That's what we hope to get every day. And we haven't had a lot of that lately. But there are times when the ES will do this day after day after day. And so that's what you want to see. And then this is just another little congestion area right here. And we broke below once. We tried to go lower again and reverse. So that's a failed second entry short that turned into a second entry long. You go long right there. And it's off to the races again. You didn't catch a runner on this one, unfortunately. So if you missed this one, you didn't get a runner on this one unless you kept your stop down here somewhere. And I don't like to do that because you never know when you get a double, triple top here and this thing turns and goes. And plus you got this resistance across here already. So you really don't need to be gambling, and at the very least, don't give back any more money than you made. So the only thing you do lose, so in other words, if you kept your stop down here at 4 points, I'm sorry, 4 ticks, then you still would have survived this and got to ride this. So that's what I usually recommend at a minimum. If you don't move your stop to break even, at least keep it at 4 ticks. So the worst that you lose on your trade are your commissions. You don't lose any money really. You lose money because you do have to pay the commissions, but at least you don't give back your 4 ticks. Hopefully that makes sense. And then this is just another double bottom right here, but this is a bounce off the EMA. And this is what I was going to tell you. Once you recognize a trend like this, see all these little tiny bars that just keep going higher and higher and higher, and that never really have a real pullback of any to amount to anything. When you see that, it doesn't look like it, but that is a very, very, very strong trend. I love these kind of days. And when you're new to this stuff, it's very deceiving because it looks like a lot of overlap, but this is indicative of a very strong trend. And look how it just keeps going higher and higher and higher. So one way you can trade this is just every pull back to the EMA is an entry too. And I marked this one because this is a double bottom. It's kind of a two-legged pullback. Once we got up here and we'd come off this top line, then it was starting to get riskier. So I didn't mark these. But still, to be honest with you, in a trend like this, it's almost worth the risk to enter if there's room to get out before you get back to the line again, which there is every time here. And you can see, you can see it just kept going higher. And if you'd have just bought any pullback to the EMA, it's kind of like the trend line on a strong trend day, you would have made money because in this case, this is the only one that wouldn't have made money, and there's no entry. Notice here, there's no break above another bar. There's no bullish bar. The first bullish bar that got a break above was right here. And you don't want to be entering down here after that bearish of a leg because now we've got a break through the upper line. We've got a lower low than these two lows. So that's not a good sign. That means we're probably going to get another leg down. And let's just measure this. I can't remember how close this was to a measured leg. I think it was real close. There's leg one. There's your little correction in there. And look, there's leg two, a perfect measured leg back. And so you got 2 entries down here. This one's good enough because it's so tiny. It's such a little bitty doji. And remember when you get away from the EMA and you get those overlapping bars and then you get a break lower, that's generally a great setup because if there's room to scalp out before you get back to the EMA, I'd almost always take that, especially coming off the trend line because you got the resistance or the support at your back, and then you had this little trap right here, and then so going long right there's another entry. And so even if you got tricked out, I would have got back in right here, but hopefully you got both of those trades and hung on, and because here your runners were safe again until over here. And once you went into this overlap, that's a good clue to go ahead and exit. And by the time we got to any of these entries, they're great entries. You could have taken any one of these entry bars as long as you kept your stop below it. You would have been safe. And look what happened again. Another great move up. And that was pretty much it for today. So we're going to make this really easy today. And again, just remember, when you see a trend that's got all these little tiny, they look like a lot of dojis and they're all overlapping, but they just keep going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. That is a strong, strong trend. And, a lot of times you just buy and hold on tight until there's a bigger correction like this right here. And when we came up and turned back down again, this was a great place to exit if you hadn't already exited in here somewhere. And the clue here that this was going to go lower is notice how this probably should be right there. And notice how all these just basically touched, and then this one broke through a little bit. And that's your clue. That's 3 pushes higher than when the last one broke through and then failed and turned down. So that was a little bit of a clue that we were probably headed to the other side of the trend channel. And that's exactly where we went. And I'll back out of here where you can see the big picture again. And this trend line, this was an easy trend line to find. No secrets there. If you can't find that, you got work to do. And if you copied it and just drug it to the top of the stuff, you would have known where all these touches were going to probably occur. And look what happened when it got there. Even in the overnight, it held again and it's turned it back down again. So hopefully all that makes sense. There's only really 4 of the key entries, but again, if you recognize this trend and you entered on any of these pullbacks to the EMA, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a great trade, a great entry, and that's really a lot of times the only way to catch these moves. And these days don't happen a lot. Um, we've had periods where we have them almost every day, and then we have periods where you don't see them for a long, long time. And we haven't seen one of these for a while, so it was really exciting to see it today. And hopefully you got your piece of it. And that's pretty much going to do it for today. So this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.